Hello, I'm Irene Tansman, author of A.B. and Arlene's Autism War. If your loved one is enrolled in a rehabilitation facility in Massachusetts, or if you're considering rehabilitation for your loved one with autism and/or intellectual disability, please consider joining the Rehabilitation Families in Massachusetts Facebook group. Today, I'd like to talk to you about this book, The Stepping Off Place, and about siblings of individuals with developmental disabilities. I'm honored that the author of The Stepping Off Place, Cameron Kelly Rosenblum, will be joining me on this video. The Stepping Off Place is a novel about a teen grappling with the suicide of her best friend. According to the CDC, suicide is the second leading cause of death for ages 10 through 24. The top cause of death for that age group is accidents, followed by suicides. More teenagers and young adults die from suicide than from cancer, heart disease, AIDS, birth defects, stroke, pneumonia, influenza, and chronic lung disease combined. Our story's protagonist in the book, The Stepping Off Place, Reid, sees her best friend, Hattie, as cool and larger than life. She struggles to understand why Hattie would commit suicide. Reid feels invisible and believes the cool crowd accepts her only because of her affiliation with Hattie rather than because of her own unique gifts. Reid's sibling, Spencer, has autism and is moderately impaired. The novel doesn't focus on autism, and Spencer does not appear throughout the story, but Reid's position in the family as a sibling of someone with autism shapes the way she feels about herself. It shapes her character. She feels second to her friend Hattie, and second to her brother Spencer because of his overwhelming needs. And now I'd like to introduce our special guest, author Cameron Kelly Rosenblum, the author of The Stepping Off Place. Cameron is a former teacher and children's librarian, in addition to being an author, wife, and mother. Welcome, Cameron, to my YouTube channel.
Thank you so much. This is really cool. I'm happy to be here.
Do you think I've summed up the book accurately?
I think you did, yes. And I appreciate that. Thank you.
Is there anything you would add to my summary?
I don't think, well, no. I think you did a really good job. I think, at its heart, the book is about friendship, but I did a lot of research around the mental health issues that come up in the book, but I did not need to do too much research on the autism because I have a 23-year-old son who the character Spencer is modeled after. He is moderately severe on the spectrum. So he still lives at home with us. So I really wanted to include him. When I was first starting out as a writer, I tried writing only about autism because it's been such a huge factor in my life and our family life and my married life, pretty much everything. But I realized that it was really, really hard for me to do that. So when I started writing more fiction, I decided that I really wanted to bring the autism into it because I felt like I had a platform to bring some awareness to the topic. And so that's why I included the character of Spencer.
I particularly appreciate the fact that that you're bringing this autism awareness. I love when I see when I read books or see movies, IOC is coming out with a movie that has somebody with severe autism in it. I just love to see that because I don't really see autism, the kind of autism that I'm familiar with. I don't see it represented very often.
It's not, because it's so hard. And I think also, if you think about how it impacts us, it's kind of easy to see how we kind of go underground. I mean, we're so busy as parents and caregivers, like staying afloat. You know, we don't really have time to get out there and be writing op-ed articles for the New York Times, you know, even if they would take them. I do think there's been more autism brought into the mainstream media, but I agree with you 100% that when you say the kind of autism I know, severe, the things that the severe, like the nonverbal or very limited, my son isn't exactly nonverbal, but you know, he's got a vocabulary of about a 3-year-old. So we don't see that. I think part of it is sheer practicality. If someone's doing a show, it's kind of hard to have a character that's nonverbal, I guess. I don't know. I love the show. Oh shoot, what's it called? Atypical. I don't know if you saw that one. I think it was Netflix. It's
Actually haven't seen it. I thought, that I probably wouldn't be able to relate to it, but now that you've mentioned it, I think I will.
Well, here's the thing. It's mostly it's about a person who has far higher functioning. This is a character who's able to like go off to college, for instance, even though he's going to have a lot of supports at college. I respected that they really explored that whole issue of, like, you know, for people who their disability presents as such where they are perfectly intelligent, can read, can you know, grapple with complex issues somewhat, but when it comes to daily life, that is still a struggle. And I appreciated that they showed that side of it. To me, it's a step up from, you know, the kid on the basketball court who the coach lets him in at the end and he shoots the winning point. I mean, that's really nice, but that's really not getting at the issue. You know, it makes everybody else feel good, but you know, I remember there was a big story up here in Maine, and I mean, God bless it, I'm glad it got some attention, but it's hard when you're like, oh yeah, that's great, nice, yeah, show all the bright side and don't show how incredibly hard it is. And so in the show Atypical and in my book, the sibling is there. And like my family, I have 2 children, and my daughter is 5 years younger than her brother, very much on purpose. We were really waiting when he was young to see, you know, one of our neurologists actually said, you know, you better hold off and see what this is going to be like and see if you can handle having 2 kids. Well, you know, both my husband and me are teachers. So we're like, of course we can handle 2 kids. So we have our daughter who's neurotypical, but it's been hard. It is hard for these kids. And so that's why I wanted to have Reid, who is the main character of the book. I wanted her to be influenced. I wanted to show the audience who doesn't know they're coming in to get a lesson on autism. I wanted to give them a lesson on autism. I wanted to show how profoundly it impacts kids. I'm sorry. Did I say my book only had 2 characters? My book has 3 kids in the family, but the brother's pretty much off stage the entire time because he's older.
Right. And so Spencer doesn't appear in the book, in the entire book. the personality of Reid is affected by the fact that she's the sister of Spencer. I was wondering what advice you would have for my viewers who are raising a neurotypical child along with a child with autism. What advice would you give those viewers?
I would say, so I can only really repeat a lot of advice that's been given to us. I don't feel like a wise sage in this department. I mean, I'm still very much in the throes of parenting my other, both my kids. But I think one thing that's probably been the most obvious recently is to not always, like, I feel like we often tried so hard to compensate to our daughter for how hard her life is. And I think that needs to be done. But I also think it's great if you can keep reminding them of all the gifts they are getting and all the strengths they have that other kids may not have because of how incredibly how much sort of just I don't know what the word is, rearranging they have to be ready for their sibling. I mean, from little children, they need to be prepared that, oh my God, my brother can make an incredible scene in this grocery store right now. And I just have to try to be graceful about it. I mean, that's how my kid handles most of it, is she tries really hard to be graceful about it. But I remember when she was younger, she would get really angry at him. And what happens sometimes is if your brother is having a fit and you start scolding him, then other people perceive the sibling who's pretty embarrassed and just trying to like get out of here, get out of this situation. I feel like she can even be like a little shamed by the well-meaning onlooker, because everyone's sympathy kind of wants to be towards the person who's disabled, and they don't
Yeah.
they're like, oh, it's okay, he's got autism. And as parents, we're like, Betsy, don't do that. That's like, in my head, I was like, that's going to reflect badly on you, but it's too much to try to explain in the moment. And it just so I think there needs to be space to talk about things afterwards. I wish I had done more talking about things afterwards, maybe, and showing her how she had handled things well, and sort of validating things that her feelings about being in situations like that. I can do that now really easily because she's 18 and she has the maturity to understand that. But I do think that these kids learn really early on. I call it stepping aside. They learn how to step aside because the other one takes priority. And I do think in that show, Atypical, there is one scene where I almost burst into tears watching it, because I was like, oh my God, that's it. The daughter is running in a track meet, and she's really been working at doing well in track, and she's emotionally kind of a tough girl. She's not demanding of attention or anything like that, which I think is pretty spot on. And so the parents come to watch, and first of all, they have to split up because it's too much. The noise in the crowd is too much for the brother who's on the spectrum. So he has to be ushered off. So the mom leaves, or maybe the dad leaves with him. I can't remember. One parent goes to shepherd the boy around and just kind of walk around. So we already know that one parent's not really going to get to see this special race because they have to attend to the brother. And then the mom, who's left in the stands, something happens that has to do with the brother. Oh, no, I know what it is. The brother starts to freak out in the stands. He starts to have a tantrum and the dad is somewhere else. And so the mom is calling to get the dad and her phone drops and she goes down to find the phone and the brother's screaming. And I think he even pulls someone's hair in the audience. And it's this whole scene and they, both parents and the brother, everybody misses. The daughter wins the race and she comes off and she says to the, she goes to see her parents and she's so happy and they try to fake it that they saw her win, but she sees through them like that. And I just thought, oh my God, like my heart just like folded up into pieces. Cause I was like, oh my God, that's exactly like, I can't, it still gets me upset because you have to attend to the crisis, and the crisis is going to always take precedent, even though in your heart you want more to be watching that race. It doesn't matter because you have to tend to the crisis. And I think, that only has to happen a few times in your life to just have it be really profound impact on how you see yourself in the world. And so I think, that is why I recommend that show, even though the kid is way higher on the spectrum than my son. But I do think they do a really sensitive job of even then how impactful it can be.
Well, I'm going to be sure to watch it. I'll probably, now that you've mentioned it, I'll probably watch it. I'll probably review it on my channel also.
Yeah.
It sounds very interesting. Now your book is categorized as the genre is a young adult book, but I read it, and as a parent of somebody with autism, and I also have a neurotypical daughter. My kids are much older than yours, but it's sort of the same situation. I would like to go back in time and do what I did better.
Yeah.
I really do feel for my daughter and the things that she had to go through. But my question is, is this reaching an audience of parents of kids with autism?
It's a great point. So part of the reason that it wound up in YA is because I had been trying to write fiction before. And as you mentioned at the outset, I'm a children's librarian and a teacher. And so my experience is very steeped in educating children. So, and the book is based very loosely, like super loosely, on a childhood friend of mine. She was my best friend, really thick as thieves in middle school. And then right before our 40th birthday, she took her own life. And I was really devastated by this. And so, but I hadn't been friendly with her. I knew I was going to write a book that was like a monument to her. And that's what this book is, mostly a monument to my friend. But we were not friends as adults. We lived of course, we're still friends. We talked on the phone, sent Christmas cards and all that stuff. But I couldn't really write it as an adult book because I didn't feel connected to her as an adult in the same way I felt connected to her as a kid. So I still fictionalized the heck out of it for privacy and all kinds of reasons. Emotional distance for me, for one. But I think that, so I had been already making connections with people in the publishing industry as a children's writer. And it's like there's a very big line between children's literature and adult literature from the publisher's perspective, but I don't think there is so much from the audience perspective. There's a lot of crossover in YA to adult. YA's young adult. I read a lot of young adult just because I like it.
I found the book, even though it was categorized as YA.
Yeah.
I hope that, that some of our viewers will learn about the book from
Yeah.
our video.
Well, thank you. I so appreciate that. I think this book, one of the reasons I think too is I'm a little bit older than a lot of YA authors. A lot of them are just younger in their adult life, even though they're adults, they're still in their 20s and 30s. And, you know, I'm a little bit on the older end. And I think that comes through in the book, even though I was trying to hide it. I was trying not to let the adult experience, but you can't really erase yourself from yourself. So even when you're trying to write something that's the audience is younger, you just can't help but bring in your perspective. So I think Reid has a very, I do think that I think it's as easily, a lot of my friends who are older, I've gotten so many letters from friends of friends who've been recommended the book by my peers. And so I do think it has legs in the adult market as well. It just kind of so happened that we went YA, but it could have been a coming of age story for the adult market too.
So what do you have any current projects in the works?
I do. I have a book called Sweeping Glass, which is again going to be marketed as a young adult novel. This one, I guess because I gravitate towards light and fluffy topics. This one is about consent and sexual assault on a high school, a private elite boarding school in New Hampshire that I made up. It's going to be about when I wanted to write a book for teens around the whole topic of consent, because even though we've had the Me Too movement and, you know, consciousness is glacially moving forward, I think that there's still a lot of room for that conversation to happen. So I wanted to write something where boys were brought into the conversation. But it's basically about a girl grappling with an assault, and she doesn't want to give up her space at this very prestigious boarding school. And so she goes back and the guy is still there. And so it's about that.
Well, it sounds very interesting.
Thank you.
I want to thank you so much for this conversation.
It's wonderful.
Could you hold up the book so everybody can
Sure. See? It's called The Stepping Off Place. Oh, and a little fun fact about the cover art, which I love. If you look really close, you can see those are the Maine cliffs and the ocean, because half the book is set in Maine, where I live, and the other half is in Connecticut. But the artist that did this also illustrates for younger children, and her book won the greatest medal you can get in children's literature, the Caldecott Award. So for illustration, she just won that last month. So that's kind of cool.
That's wonderful. The book, The Stepping Off Place, for my viewers, I want everybody to know that it's available on Amazon, and also you can take it out of your local library.
You absolutely can.
For joining me.
Thank you for having me, Irene.
Kelly Cameron Rosenblum, the author of The Stepping Off Place. Thank you so much.
Thank you.